Eve, have you shared your story at all yet? Um,
Sorry, I gotta keep figuring out this mute thing.
okay, go ahead. What's your story?
Well, I was wandering around for a little bit in California, and a college friend of mine said to come to Nashville. And there I went into a weekend thing called The Encounter. So I was on this weekend thing. At the last day, they were asking, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I can't stay in the United States much longer, and I don't really want to go back to Canada, and I need to find out what I'm going to do." So Laura Beck was in the meeting, super nice, and said, "Why don't you just come back to our house?" And so I did. So I hung out there for a while, and she and Roland were just amazing. And I got to experience just a chemical-free, gluten-free, super healthy environment. The first thing I noticed was the hand soap. I'm chemically sensitive, and I just get headaches from fragrance and stuff. And so I asked what the soap was in their guest bathroom, and they told me it was Shackley. And I just knew it was something special and really different. So I experienced everything over a couple of weeks. I ended up going back to Windsor, where my parents' home was, and I missed everything in my life. I knew I felt tremendously better. And so that was it. I decided that's it. I'm going to order it. I want it in my life. And so I thought I would do the business for a bit, but then I got offered a job, and it just sucked me dry. So sadly, I let my Shackley go for a couple of years, and several jobs later that have not panned out, big disappointments. And I thought, that's it. How much longer I'm going to wait to do something that I love that's done great things in my life? So just before Christmas, that's when I decided to do it full time.
Oh, awesome. That is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's so cool though is that you felt it before and you left it thinking, okay, maybe I can do better elsewhere. Because so often we want something really quick. And then it's like, wow, I miss it. And then you come back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want
Yeah.
to applaud you for having the presence of mind to realize how happy you were before and come back to it. Because a lot of people won't do that. So that's pretty awesome that you did that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Cool. Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Roland, why don't you tell us your start? How did you get started? And so I don't know that too many people really know your real story. Because you're so good with the nutrition and everybody wants to hear that part from you.
I started when I was 2.
Oh, wow. Okay. You got a good mom.
Oh, I was thinking the other day how one or two things said to you can change your life. And working in a factory in Michigan, the guy said, "Why don't you go to California and go to school?" And, working on a farm, you don't travel much. I've never been to California, barely out of the state of Michigan sometimes. And he kept insisting, "Why don't you?" And I think it's a great question. Why don't we do certain things? In other words, we're so quick to put the blocks up. Say, no, I can't do that. I really didn't have a good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And, it changed my life by doing that, because I did go to California and I didn't have a job. I didn't know anybody, but I did it. So while going to college out there is where I was working at a service station. Those were the days when you gave service.
Yeah.
You checked under the hood, pumped gas, cleaned the windshields. That's probably before most of your time, but anyway.
I remember that.
And it was at that point where a guy came into the service station and just said, "Do you want to feel better?" It was that simple. And when we talk to a lot of people, and I'm thinking right now, why don't we ask people if they want to feel better? Especially when they start complaining about their health. And so it was very, very simple. as an introvert, it felt very, very good in order to talk to other people because I just said the same thing. Do you want to feel better? And got everybody started on protein, Vitamin E, and Herbalax.
And is that how you guys started too?
Yeah. Protein, Vitamin E, and Herbalax. And people started feeling better. The few people that I got started in California, but then moved back to Michigan, taught school, worked in the insurance business a little bit. But it was at that point that I realized all these people, I was asking if they wanted to feel better, and they did try the product, they felt better. That's when I saw there was an income opportunity, which I never looked at. And what really changed my thinking is Shackley had a magazine called Survey.
Oh, yes.
Magazine. And I think this is a great thing to do, but anyway, it was a list of all the people that were new directors in different regions of the country. And there'd be a whole list. And I don't know if it came out monthly or quarterly.
Monthly.
And then it would list all the people who moved up in rank, the coordinator and so on.
And people that got new cars.
And got cars. And it would show bigger pictures of people as they moved up in rank. And I said, if all these people can do it, I can do it. That was one of the motivating factors. And the other motivating factor was the people who helped me get started. Madeline and Roger Trottier were in California. I'm in Michigan. And they said, why don't you come to Minneapolis and come to a big meeting that we're going to have in Minneapolis and get to meet everybody. And what do you think the first thing I said was? No, I can't afford it. No, I can't. I mean, we're so quick to say we can't. And she said, why not? And I said, well, you don't understand. I can't afford it. I never even checked on an airfare. She said, we can pick you up at the airport. So it's only going one way, and then we will go from there on to Michigan and do a meeting for you and so on. I said, no, I can't. I didn't have a good reason. Think about it. Think about it. And so she said, in fact, you can stay in our room. It won't cost you anything. But she would not pay for the airfare. And I said, well, I will check. And I remember it was $40 to fly from Traverse City, Michigan to Minneapolis. I said, okay. And so I flew there. They picked me up at the airport. And the key thing that I remember, I mean, Forrest Jr. was there, and it was just incredible event. And I remember meeting Clarence Hunt. I think he's deceased now, so I can mention his name. But he was from Wisconsin. And this guy talked too much, did everything wrong, but he was getting people all over the place, even in Reed City, Michigan, which was about an hour from Traverse City. And that started aggravating me because this guy was right off the farm. He was a little too big for his suit. The buttons were ready to pop. And he had this car, which was a Cadillac, which had big bull horns on the front. It was obnoxious. He was obnoxious. And they introduced me to him. And they said, he's a coordinator. And that time, to be a coordinator, you had to have 4 first-level directors, each at 3,000 volume. And I said, if this guy can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, he's disgusting.
Was his car a Shackley car?
Pardon me?
Was his car a Shackley car?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big
No
old Lincoln, green Lincoln. I'll never forget green Lincoln with big old bull horns. Brahma bull on the front. It was, anyway, it's disgusting. I'm still disgusted about it.
It's
Even
funny.
years later. And so I said, if he can do it, I can do it. So there are a lot of lessons there. Number one, we are quick to say, no, I can't. And the question is, why not? And the other thing is realizing people can do this. So what makes them so unique?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. But they have a belief and a dream.
Yes.
And that is so vitally important. And I think many people are not dreaming today. They're focusing on activity. What activity can I do? And they forget to dream. And if you have the dream, you let the dream guide the activity.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing the activity and hope it'll turn into a dream. It's not going to happen. So it's like building a building.
Yeah.
You have the dream of the building. You have the design of the building before you start building the building.
Right.
And many people in Shackley today, they start building the building and they don't even know what they're trying to build. So, we lose a lot of time. So those are two very, very key things that I felt that I learned early on. Why you quickly say no.
And I can't afford it.
And okay, I mean, yeah, we can come up with great reasons.
It's something
Start looking at the value.
We hear that quite a bit.
Yep.
Quite often, that they don't think they can afford it. And
Yep.
we look back now and it's like, how can we not afford it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So who else would like to share? Maggie, have you shared yours yet either? I know PJ, you have a couple times, right? Maggie,
I don't think I have.
you don't think you have what?
Shared it. I don't think I've shared it.
No, you haven't. I don't believe so. So can you share?
Sure. It's nothing earth-shattering, but so when my son, who is now 17, he was in preschool and kindergarten, going up through the grades. Every year I would hear, "Great kid, he doesn't focus." Not hyper, he just didn't focus. And he was at his doctor's appointment for his yearly checkup, and he asked how he was doing in school. So I mentioned that to him, and of course he wants to hand out a medication for it. And it's like, no, I think I'm just gonna try some other avenues first. And he was fairly insistent about it. He's like, well, if you try it, it doesn't work, then and it just made me angrier that I just felt he was trying to push it on me. So I declined, and I was talking to his former first grade teacher, because at this point he was in second grade, and she gave me a name of a lady who had helped one of her students, and that lady is Cheryl Seed. So I contacted Cheryl and got some stuff for Ben, and then in the process then got stuff for me and my daughter, and just learned about the difference and been using it ever since.
So what happened with your son? You got some stuff for him, and what did you notice differently?
Well, I can't say there was anything very earth-shattering, but that was not, I don't think I was doing it as consistently as I should have, and I didn't realize then the importance of the protein. And in the end, I found out that my son just really doesn't like school. Like, classes he likes, he pays attention in history, So part of it, he just doesn't care for school, but I mean, he does, struggle with that a little bit, but there was nothing I can't say there was a huge change and suddenly he got all A's. But what I can say is that my kids are very, very healthy, and it was very rare did they need to take a sick day. And I work in literally germ city, and I never take sick days anymore. If I want to take a day off, I take it off to do something fun. So I always tell my boss, I'm like, well, I never take sick days, so I'm going to take this day off and I'm going to go ride my bike. And he's like, okay.
So are you a teacher? No?
Yes.
Yes. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you use that hand sanitizer stuff in your classroom?
I didn't know how bad it was, and I'm not even exactly sure. I heard you guys talking about it on one of the calls, and I did use it occasionally because my room, I don't have a sink, and I just have kindergarten and first grade resource students, and a lot of them, they pick their noses all the time, and so I keep send them like to the sink to wash their hands. So I did use that, but now I don't, because I heard you talk about how bad it is. I just not sure why it's so bad. I just heard you say it, so I don't anymore.
Because it breaks the first line of defense that protects our body. It breaks our acid mantle out.
It breaks the what?
We have an acid mantle that's naturally God put on our bodies to protect us. And when you use that stuff, it breaks that down. So an amazing, a wonderful alternative in a classroom that's very inexpensive, I don't know if you buy that stuff or if your school does, is to take like Viva paper towels and cut a roll in half, and then use one of your protein cans and get that half into there, and then take a cup and a half of water and then put basic H in there. And if you want to touch a basic G in, you can add that. And then that'll give you leave that in there to all absorb up, and then you pull the core out, and then you've got your own little wipes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, absolutely. And then your kids won't be, I really believe that helps keep the kids healthier too, rather than breaking them down all the time, breaking that off from everybody. So all the germs can get.
And that stuff is used like unbelievably in schools, along with the like the Lysol wipes. And I actually spoke to some of the teachers, and now some of them use the basic G in the classroom because, you know, they know how bad those Lysol wipes are now. But the hand sanitizer, it's used all the time.
But it really isn't a whole lot better than the Lysol. But it's all education. It's all
for
education.
Sure.
I did a thing out at a insurance company a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if anybody's seen these, they're called the Toxic Hold'em cards. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Okay. And of course, when I want to show you, I can't put my fingers on it. I thought they were right here. I just used them. Anyways, they're cards, and it's got all the normal cleaning products, and then it, depending on the color that's on the back of them, it tells you the chemicals that are in them. And then you have a card that tells all the damage that those chemicals do to your body. And I've gotten on a kick on the cleaning products lately again, because it's mind-boggling to me how that affects the health. And I got a call today from some church group that said, oh, she saw you at that insurance thing, and would you come and talk to us about the cleaning products? And I said, I sure will. I said, we're a total health and wellness company. And she goes, you are? You deal with other stuff like that? So we'll see what comes out of it. But anyway, so that's awesome, Maggie. Thank you so much. PJ, what about you? I know you've told Dale's story and you've told Steve's story. What about PJ's story?
Okay. I first got into Shackley in the late 1970s. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Dr. Shackley was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
The company was growing by leaps and bounds. It was a wonderful time, very inspirational. The way I got in was I had 3 preschoolers at the time, and I had a friend named Melinda. Her name was Melinda Wolf, and our husbands would hunt together. So when she came over with her kids, and I had my kids, and we just hang out while the guys were hunting for deer. And I remember kind of complaining about little aches and pains and problems, and she said, well, you know, I just joined Shackley, and they have this protein and this Vitamin E, and if you use them together for 1 month every day, you will feel better. They'll give you your money back. And I said, no, I take Theragram or whatever it was. I said, I'm covered. I'm taking vitamins. And she said, okay, but if you change your mind, let me know. So anyway, about the 3rd time she was over, and I said something about not sleeping well, or I don't know what it was. She said, well, you know, you could feel better with Shackley. And I said, Melinda, she said, you'll get your money back. She reminded me of that again, if it doesn't work. And I said, Melinda, I can't do that because I'm a skeptic. And if it doesn't work, I'll be the first one to have my hand out wanting the refund. and then we won't be friends anymore. And she said, no, we will still be friends. It won't be me you're rejecting. It'll be Shackley. So please try it. And I said, okay, I'll try it. And so she said, now you have to take it every day.
Yeah.
Told me how to take it. And so I did. And a week later, I'm kind of hopping and skipping around and feeling pretty good. And I thought, it's surely not those. And she had me go off the Theragram, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And, after a month, I had so many improvements in my health that I had to write them down. And I think there were like 22 things, and I still have that list. I still have that. And so I was hooked, and I thought, I need these products. And so I started using other things, and I had hypoglycemia really bad from the age of 13, and it fixed my hypoglycemia. And I had adult acne, and the acne was getting better, and just had a host of other things. I had broken my back when I was 13, and
Wow.
At the lower back, doctor said it's a wonder I could walk, and I had back problems for a long time. It helped that, and menstrual cramps, and I could just go on, just so many things. And so I was excited about it and started sharing with friends and stuff. And before you knew it, I was being told, well, you could be a supervisor. And I did become a supervisor for a couple years, 2, 3, 4 years. I can't remember. Let me turn this off. And then I floated away from Shackley. My husband then, my first husband, was not supportive of Shackley, and he didn't want me to use it anymore. And so I had to give it up because of him. That was First Steve, not Mr. Steve. And I squirreled away a container of the Shackley Energizing Soy Protein. I squirreled it away because in case I ever had a crash, I would use it. And then I ran out of that and got another one. Well, after I married Mr. Steve, I still had a squirreled away can of the protein. And I started having blood sugar crashes again. And I had this really bad crash this one morning, and I was just on the floor, shaking, can't see, can't hear, just shaking like really bad. And so I told him, I said, go get that protein I told you about and mix it up for me. So he did and brought it to me. And I'm sitting on the floor and I'm crying and breathing hard. And he had to feed it to me. And after about 5 minutes after I drank it, I was like, great. I'm standing up, I'm getting ready again. And he said, what is in this stuff? And he's holding the jar, the canister, and he's looking at it. And then he looks at the bottom. He said, PJ, this stuff is 10 years expired. I said, don't throw it away. It's working. So anyway, then I started, a couple years later, started going through menopause and felt like I was falling apart. And then I did GNC's very best because I had lost track of Shackley people. A year later, I was worse off than ever. And my bones I had osteopenia, and it was getting worse. And it got worse on the GNC, noticeably worse. And so I told, one morning, I looked at all that GNC in the cabinet, and I said, Mr. Steve. He said, what? I said, I'm getting rid of all this junk, and I'm going back to Shackley because I know it works. He said, isn't that one of those companies where you have to kind of know somebody? I said, I will find somebody. So we found somebody. We got back in. I bought $250 worth of products. And a couple months later, I felt like a new person. It was like a rerun. It was like the same things were happening. The hair wasn't falling out in the hairbrush as much. The skin was getting smoother. Acne was clearing up. The hypoglycemia went away, and on and on. And so I was hooked again. And I had prayed the first time I was in Shackley. I said, God, I need these products, and I want to use them the rest of my life. And so he didn't answer that prayer right then, but he did later. And I think, I'm in a position where I can I plan to use the products the rest of my life, and my Shackley business is paying for it and then some. My Shackley business stayed stable through the 3 years that Mr. Steve had the cancer journey. He had cancer before we ever got married, before Shackley. And then now I have his dad living with me. He's 94, and he's quite a Shackley testimony. You know, he's way healthier than most 94-year-olds. And at my age now, I'm 66. I have no aches and pains. I have a lot of energy. Like today, I treadmilled for 32 minutes. I took a bike ride all the way across town and back. I spent an hour and a half out in the yard doing yard work, heavy yard work, pulling weeds and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, it feels good to be feeling this good at this age. And I need to build my business more than I am. But even when you're not, you know, going gung-ho, Shackley is a pretty stable company, and a person can build a pretty stable business in it, even at the lower levels, because the products are so good and people keep coming back to use them, and people set up auto ships. So anyway, I'm a happy camper.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One question that I got for you is, back in the beginning when you started on the product, did you think you were sick?
No. I said I was healthy.
Yes, exactly.
Then, yeah, I felt like I was very healthy. But then after a month, when I wrote down all those things that had disappeared, I thought, wow, I wasn't as healthy as I thought I was.
You forget about those things. And that's something that I always ask people to do before they start, is write down a list of everything. I have them go through that thing and check everything off, and anything that's not on there, write it on there. Because when it goes away, you forget about it. Yeah. I had the same thing. I was actually very sick, and I thought I was healthy when I look back at it now.
You know, when I look back at pictures, I used to have, they said it was rosacea. I'm not sure if that was it, but my face was very red and my neck was very white. And it just didn't look like my face belonged with my neck. And that was one of the things that Shackley cleared up right away.
That's interesting.
It cleared that up. And I had little spider veins on my face that cleared up. Just all kinds of stuff. I had, the second time I got in Shackley, I had been in a car accident a few years before, and the whole left top quarter of my back was numb. I mean, I could just dig my fingernails in it and not even feel it. And I was using GNC's B-complex, trying to feed the nerves, you know. And then when I got in Shackley, I immediately got their B-complex and was using it. And see, not only was that numb, but it's like my lower back where I broke it was hurting really bad. And then I got to the point where if I pick something up, like a pencil, and then I'd pick something else up with the other hand, I'd drop the first thing. It was like a nerve muscle, you know, like a motor nerve problem.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't pick up my grandkids unless I was sitting down because I was afraid I'd drop them. But I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And 2 months after I was in Shackley using the B-complex the second time, I told Mr. Steve one morning, I said, you know what? Oh, here's another thing. My arms and legs were going to sleep at night all the time too. That's another reason I was taking the GNC B. Okay, so I'm taking the Shackley B, and I told him, I said, you know what? I don't remember the last time my arms and legs went to sleep at night. And he said, you know what? You're not dropping things either. So, and then I took both bottles, the Shackley B-complex and the GNC B-complex, and I put them side by side, and I looked at the labels. And according to the labels, it looked like almost the same formula. But it was so different in the way it was used in my body. And I thought, well, that's a Shackley difference.
Yeah. The reason I asked that question, PJ, is because there's many people who do not think that they have health issues going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the exact same way. But a lot of people think they're healthy because the doctor doesn't tell them how sick they are. But in reality, they're not healthy. And we never used to get into all these health issues that people get into now to help people. And I'm going back to what we were brought up with in the beginning, that it's about cellular health. It's about starting at the bottom and making your body healthy. It's not about treating disease. And there's so many times that we run into, I think back when I got started, it was the older people that we always dealt with that were sick. In fact, my post today was, it's kind of scary how people in their 30s and 40s say, well, I'm getting older and that's why I don't, I got this because I'm getting older. And I'm like, getting older, for crying out loud, you're a kid yet.
Yeah, I heard that from a 40-year-old yesterday.
I know, I'm hearing that.
And I really appreciate Roland's simple approach. Do you want to feel better?
Yeah.
It's just so simple. The answer is either yes or the answer is no. It's that simple.
And getting back to our guarantee. I think our guarantee, we don't talk about it enough. I mean, it used to be, you want to feel better, and if you don't, you get your money back. Mm-hmm. And I believe our guarantee is going to be coming out pretty strong again. I know I'm using it, and because we have so much competition, and I don't know that everybody else talks about that guarantee, but you don't get products back because they work. They work. So
well, with a lot of companies, even if they have a guarantee, it takes forever sometimes to get your money back.
Yeah, and they have limited. Yeah. It's only for so long. So, well, I thank you everybody for coming to my rescue and sharing your stories tonight. But and again, this will be recorded or